morning, good afternoon, and good night. My name is Marv Fox Jr. This has become the podcast. How do you become anything? You dream, you declare, you commit, and success is your next breath. We listen to the sounds of Detroit's own Anita Baker. She's got one of the dopest, coolest voices of all time. And it was cool because Anita came at a time where you had to have something that separates you from everyone else. You know, you think about somebody like Keith Sweat. Keith Sweat, in my opinion, cannot sing, but there was a certain confidence, there was a certain control, there was a certain, there was just an element that, although it may sound kind of crazy, it was done with such conviction that it worked. And Anita's on the other end of that spectrum. The way she was singing, her voice, the way she would, say her words, and her everything that she brought to the table was very different than what Whitney Houston was doing, and the way that Luther sounded. And they all had their different sounds. And we're at an era now, man, where like I don't even think you got to really be able to sing anymore. You could just, the difference doesn't have to necessarily be your ability. It's like a different, what separates you. You as long as you sound like this, then you're good. Versus back in the day, you had to not sound like this in order to be good. We don't want you to be like this person. We want to see you. We want to hear your own take on creativity. We want to see how we want your own brand of creativity. Where now, like, this is the brand of creativity. Do you sound like this? If you sound like this, you're good. So anyway, Anita Baker was distinct voice, distinct style, and that's why she's a legend. So I got my 3 lessons from the week. And I was laying in the bed again, had some company over last night, so didn't get a chance to prepare like I normally do. And so I had 2 on my mind, and I had a third one that I could not think of, and then it finally came to me. And it is not the one that I originally had, but I think it's the lesson that I think is not necessarily a lesson, but more so an observation. But here are some 3 lessons from the week, or 3 observations from the week. I'll just tell them in story form and kind of tell you the story and tell you the observation. So, in one of my previous podcasts, I was talking about how when I started doing my basketball training, I was often taking L's, right? Not losses, but life learning lessons. And I wasn't getting a return for my investment. So I would spend hours and hours at the gym only to come home with a couple of dollars, maybe $25. I would go to the gym for 3 or 4 hours and maybe come home with $75. And so my wife was like, "Man, you've been gone for 3 or 4 hours. We got one car. We have to stay cooped up in the house. All you bring home is $50, $75." And sometimes I would bring home enough money to justify being gone, and some days I wasn't. Sometimes I had to come home without anything. A lot of days, man, spent in the gym grinding and promoting and doing free, so that in hopes that it would translate into something. And there's a lot of times that I felt I was flat out I was defeated, probably because my spirit wasn't ready for what I was going to endure. I was just jumping in 2 feet first, not really thinking about, how cold the water may be or how hot the water may be. I just wanted to jump into the water. And I never thought of, it never crossed my mind that being an entrepreneur could be this difficult, especially when you decide that you're going to get rid of your residual income, the job, and then just jump 2 feet in and start training for full time and let all your money, or let your financial stability be dependent upon a service that is a luxury item. I wasn't providing something that people needed. I'm providing something that people want if they can afford it, right? And so there was a lot of times where I just wanted to quit. And it's always funny how every time I try to kind of get rid of the game will find me, right? So whether you believe in God or whether you believe in the universe, you can decide what was pulling me back into the game, or what may be pulling you back into whatever your game is. But I believe in God, so like God kept letting me know that no, I'm not done with you yet. You think you're done with basketball, but I'm not done with you, and because I'm not done with you, I got some more basketball for you to do. And here it is. I'm trying to lead. I'm looking at my wife, I'm looking at my kids, and I'm thinking to myself, I can't keep doing this song and dance, this very random song and dance with basketball where the money is all over the place and we struggling and we grinding and I'm spending hours and hours outside the house. I need to come up with something that's a little bit more stable. And God was like, no, you're gonna keep doing this unstable song and dance. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna keep training these kids. And just to make sure you know that I want you to train these kids, I'm gonna provide you with opportunities that you can't say no to, so that you stay in it. The challenges never stopped, but the opportunities, the enticing opportunities that made it so difficult to walk away from kept reappearing. So here I is, I'm trying to walk away from the game, and then God will say, here's somebody and they have a gym and they want you to be the lead trainer in that gym. How do you say no to that? I got my own gym. For about 3 or 4 years, I had my own gym. I'm trying to walk away from the game, and as I'm walking away from the game, I get asked to coach college basketball. You know what I'm saying? And then when I'm thinking, okay, man, do I want to coach college basketball? Because on the NAI level, you're not getting paid tons of money like you get paid as a Division I coach. So as I'm thinking about leaving the game of basketball, not only do I get a coaching opportunity, but then at first it's for free, volunteer. And I'm like, man, shoot, I want to coach college basketball. This is a great opportunity. It's going to help my resume, but I got to do it for free. And then God says, oh, by the way, I'm going to add a stipend to it. So now I know. So now you can't look away from it. You can't ignore it, because now I've attached a stipend to it. And so here we are, even in 2018. I want to shift a lot of my efforts and intent and energy toward inspirational speaking. There's going to be a lot of transition in my life come April, in terms of moving to a different location, in terms of potentially leaving U of M. And I'm thinking of, okay, I need to, utilize my master's degree. I need to find I need to look for some other jobs within the U of M system. And my phone has been blowing up with basketball opportunities. Another person has come with a gym and is saying, listen, I got a gym. I'm opening up my facility. I want to talk to you about doing some things in my gym. It's like, come on, man. I got parents that are like, Marv, I'll pay you premium dollar for you to train my kids. I'm like, come on, man. I'm trying to go this way. I'm trying to do my inspirational speaking stuff. And it's not like the speaking stuff isn't happening for me as well. But it's just funny how God has this funny way of letting you know, I ain't done with you yet. And I know you struggling. I know you grinding. I know sometimes the future seems uncertain doing this stuff over here, but this is what I need you to do. You feel me? Like he said, I know it's uncertain. I know doing this makes your future uncertain. I know doing this sometimes makes you a little uncomfortable. I know that I know that doing this can just be tough, but here's the thing. You're going to impact more people doing this stuff, the stuff that makes you uncomfortable, stuff that makes you, fatigued and sore. Yeah, I need you doing that. You're going to touch more people than being safe over here. So just understand, man, that if you whatever you're doing, if you know it's your purpose, but you sometimes question whether or not you should be doing it because you might be able to do something else that's a lot less strenuous, just know that God has a very funny way of letting you know he's not done with you yet, and that sometimes you have to endure for the greater good. And it's even deeper when you know what purpose is, and you know that purpose requires, when you know that purpose requires a committed effort, it's really hard to know that God's steering you towards your purpose, and it's hard to ignore that. It's hard to reject him and say, I'm gonna do this over here. So that was my first lesson. This is You Bring Me Joy from Anita Baker. I want to listen to something else. So 1 second. Been So Long? Nah, I want to listen to that one. No One in the World? No. Same Old Love. So, my second life lesson, the second lesson second observation of this week is, it's okay to teach kids different things, or it's okay to teach people differently, or to give people different information, all depending if you're a leadership situation. But you have to love them the same, one, and you have to have the same level of enthusiasm, no matter who you're coaching, or no matter who you're working with, or no matter who you're parenting, no matter who you're engaged with. Like if you're in a leadership position and you have an opportunity to develop a group of people, or mentor a group of people, or coach a group of people, or to lead a group of people, you may give people different information, which is fine. But you have to make sure that you love them the same, and your enthusiasm for the opportunities in which you coach, develop, mentor, lead, teach, so on and so forth, it must be the same. Because when you vary your level of enthusiasm and love for who you're engaging with, the people involved are going to feel that. They're going to feel that. And people know when you're just checking items off the list. They know when you're checking items off the list. They know when you're just doing something just to say, okay, I did it. But then they can look at you from afar and say, man, I know that we all had our meetings. We all had our moments together. But I know that that moment with that person is more special than me. And it goes back to the idea that you have to decide, how do you want to think about what you're doing? And it might be easier to love some people. It may be easier to love some people. It may be more challenging to love others, but you have to find a way to intentionally find a way to love those people on the same level, or to be enthusiastic, to be enthusiastic about the way that you love both of those people, or the way that you teach both of those people. Because what happens is the person that's getting the high level of enthusiasm, they're going to look at the person that's getting the low level of enthusiasm with the lack of respect. They're going to start feeling like they're better than that person. They're going to start feeling like, they don't have to support that lower person. And then the lower person starts looking at the person who gets all the enthusiasm. They're going to start looking at that person with angst. They're going to end up being jealous, envious, and spiteful. So you'll never get those two people to really support one another, because in those people's minds, one person gets less than the other and one person gets more than the other. And so now that's going to have an impact on how they view each other. And so in that instance, the leader will often look at the kids and blame the kids for who they are and how they interact with one another. When in all actuality, the leader becomes the divisive character. The leader becomes the reason why these kids, or the reason why the people that are being mentored, taught, led, that's why they become against one another. It's because they've been conditioned. They've been taught with varying levels of love and enthusiasm, and that has an impact on how kids, or how people will work for another, how people will work together, how people support one another. So again, always be intentional, and be intentional by showing up a certain way, one, but two, making sure that you're thinking about the ways in which you love people, so that you make sure that even though this person over here may be easy to love, because maybe they come from where I come from and we have something in common. This person is a part of my process, or this person is a part of the process, but there's some things that kind of disconnect us. But because of my relation, because of my position, because of what I'm here to do, I have to intentionally love that person and give that person the same enthusiasm that I give the person that I like, because it's my responsibility. It's my responsibility to do so. My last point of my last lesson or observation is the balance between being empathetic toward people and holding people accountable for their own happiness is a very tough juggling act. On one end of the spectrum, I know that it is my responsibility to be happy. It is my responsibility to take my unwanted situations and come away with something that will help me to be stronger, be better, be wiser, be happier long term. But on the flip side of things, when I have to now deal with other people who are going through it, the balance between being empathetic and saying, okay, I know what you're feeling. I'm working hard to know what you're feeling. I'm working hard to put myself in your shoes. I'm working to take myself from where I am to where you are, so I can feel like you feel and connect and relate and empathize with you and your pain. But then on the flip side of things, I know, because of how I treat myself, I'm responsible for my happiness, and so are you. So that balance is always tough, man, because we're in a very sensitive time in America, where a lot of marginalized narratives and underrepresented people are justifiably being allowed to talk about their struggles and bring those struggles up to the forefront. And these people are able to say, like, this is what's been happening to me for years. This is what's been happening to my people for years. This is what the system has done to us. This is what these people have done to us. This is why I'm scarred and bruised, and this is why I show up the way that I do. And so there's empathy that is necessary. You know, like people need to set aside their ego and say, let me go to where you are, so I can become more familiar with what you're going through. The flip side of that is, at some point, you got to giddy up, and at some point you got to get back on the horse, and like, you got to start riding. You can't just you can't fall off the horse and just look at the horse like, man, you see how far from the horse I fell? You see how my body hit the ground? Man, look, that horse threw me off of it. That horse is the blame for my aches and pains. And it's like, how long are you going to blame the horse for like being the horse and like you falling off? At some point, you got to get back on the horse, and you got to figure out a way to move with the horse properly so that you don't fall. You got to find a way to make the horse benefit you. You got to find a way to make the horse, you and the horse have to be one, so you can have this smooth ride that's enjoyable, that's got its challenges, but you got to become one. And it's just like, again, from the outside, how do you, the balance between empathizing with someone and then saying, listen, man, I'm holding someone accountable for their happiness is tough. Because if you hold somebody too much accountable, it's almost like, well, you're not going through what I'm going through, so you don't know how tough it is to be me. And it's like, yeah, you're right. I don't know. But on the flip side of things, it's like, all right, I've been empathizing with you for for a long time. At what point are you going to take the empathy and like appreciate it, and now appreciate the moment in which you were rejected, and then appreciate the moment in which you were affected, impacted, whatever, hurt, at what point are you going to appreciate that moment and then find the goodness in it and now use that moment to now help somebody else out? At what point, at what moment do you not get over it, but just understand it? At what point do you understand the pain so now you can use it to not help someone else? So I'm not saying, I don't have an explanation. I don't have an explanation. I do have a side in this, and it errs on the side of you got to hold yourself you got to hold yourself accountable for your own happiness. But then I'm working to develop more a lens of empathy that helps me to see how somebody could be struggling, and everybody hasn't been given the same coping mechanisms that I was given to help me power through things. And then somebody might look at me and think the same thing, like, man, you don't have the correct coping mechanism to deal with adversity. When I think, yeah, I do, but somebody else might be a little bit stronger, a little bit more resilient. So I know that there's going to be times when being empathetic is incredibly difficult, and people have different levels of empathy. But then there's also this time where you gotta like giddy up and go, And so with that being said, it's just a tough balance. It's a tough balance, and it's just tough. I don't know the answers, but just know that if you are you're in a position where you can help someone else out, just do the best you can and be empathetic, but don't be afraid to tell somebody giddy up, because they may need to hear that. So that's it. My 3 lessons or observations were obviously holding people accountable for their success and empathizing is incredibly difficult. And you have to coach with intention. You have to lead with intention. And you have to make sure that you're giving everybody the same level of enthusiasm when you're dealing with them. You may teach them different, but the level of enthusiasm must be the same. And the last thing is, God has a very, very funny way, or the universe has a very, very funny way of letting you know that he or it is not done with you. So with that being said, greatness lives on the edge of death. I am not afraid to die. I will fight for my brother. I will fight for my dreams. I will celebrate my dreams, and I will die for my dreams. Thoughts are things, and everything starts off as a thought first and springs from a place of mindfulness and clarity. My name is Mar Fox Jr. Anita Baker. Done.